thinking about this, and I realized that I grew up and I felt very lonely. It's like I just felt like a lot of the world wasn't really making sense, or I didn't feel like I fit in. And I would just hear these voices, and I would hear things that other people didn't hear, and which always made me feel really weird. So I never talked about it. But I seemed to have this weird insight into what was going on in people's lives, and what they were thinking. I'm not mind reading exactly, but what was motivating them. And it's funny, a few years ago, I went back for my high school reunion, and I totally spaced this out, but in high school, I had office hours in the library, in the back of the library stacks, where all the other kids my age would come and have office hours with me, and I would give them counseling. And that was the beginning of my intuitive reading business in high school. But I would just get, try this, or this is what's going on with someone, or just this insight, this very calm, kind, loving voice that, it's not that inner critic, you're doing it wrong, why don't you do this? It was always that message from, whether you think of it as your intuition, your spirit guides, angels, past loved ones that have passed away, I don't know that it matters, God, Jesus, that there's this spirit that's speaking to us all the time, that's guiding us. I just think we're hardwired to receive that intelligence. Oh my gosh, I was so confused after I got out of high school. I could not figure out what I wanted to do. And I went from one job to another that just never made any sense and wasn't really what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I ended up being the operations manager of a software company in Boston for many years. And I knew it wasn't what I wanted to do. I knew it wasn't where my heart was. I just felt like I was like in a kind of a straitjacket there. It just did not fit. And I went to see a career counselor during that time. And I said, I just don't like this job. It's not me. And I feel like I love spirituality. I love personal growth. And I don't want to be a psychologist. I don't want to go back to school for 4 years. I want to have my own business. And it's like I was just all over the map. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And so I went to take a class on intuition development class one weekend and found that I was really good at tuning into people. And everybody was like, wow, how do you know that about me? How did you get that insight? Where did that come from? And I went back to the career counselor, and I jokingly, total tongue-in-cheek, said, I've got it, I'm gonna be a psychic. I'm gonna be psychic girl. And then I changed the subject. And then she said, well, wait a minute, why not? And I said, well, it's not the kind of job that appears in the Boston Globe newspaper. It's where I live. And she said, well, let me tell you about visualizing and doing affirmations, and let's just say this might be a good business for you. And so I'm like, okay. I mean, it kind of sounded weird, but so I started visualizing. And what happened next was so bizarre. I mean, really, only the universe can design this stuff. I mean, so what happened was a really good friend of mine died. I was a couple hundred people at his funeral. I walked in intending to sit next to a friend. But as I got in there, I heard this woman say, please sit there. And I'm thinking, it's kind of weird to have assigned seating at a funeral, but there was an empty seat next to me, so I sat there. I turned to acknowledge the woman who had said that, and there was no one there. I have no idea who said that, other than in spirit. But I'm sitting there through the whole service going, what the heck was that about? And at the end of the service, she and I started chatting, and she said, well, what do you do for a living? Well, I was the operations manager of a software company. But no, I don't say that. I go, I'm a psychic. I mean, still, to this day, I'm like, oh my God, I was so embarrassed. So the short version of this story is that she turned out to be a Boston Globe newspaper reporter. I had given her a reading, and she wrote an article, and I got 500 clients in the next month. So the universe just has weird ways of showing up, to give you the right next step. But it's trusting that inner voice, trusting that guidance, however you get it. I'm really a believer that if something's in your heart that you're excited about, that you're curious about, that energizes you, that lights you up, that's your intuition saying that's the right next step. And the big thing is you don't have to know how to do it. Because if I had thought, oh, I'm going to become a psychic and I'm going to meet a woman, a Boston Globe newspaper reporter at a friend's funeral, and she's going to write an article, and I couldn't have come up with that in my logical brain. So I'm a very big believer that if you've got it in your heart, if it lights you up, start to envision it, start to imagine it happening, start to really practice that positive self-talk, like, it will happen, that things have a way of working out. This is in my path, I know it's in my heart for a reason, it's mine to do. And so I just started imagining myself being an international speaker. I imagined myself writing books. I imagined myself having a successful business. And, it doesn't come all at once. I mean, probably it's good that it doesn't come all at once. But all of a sudden I started getting, people from Japan, in this case, you mentioned that earlier, calling me and saying, we'd love to have you come and speak over here. And the first time I gave a talk to 2,000 people with a translator, I was a little nervous at the end of it. My legs started shaking. I'm thinking, oh my God, why am I so nervous? It turned out to be an earthquake. So I told them I rock their world in Japan. But, each step along the way, I just really believe that if something's in your heart, there's a way to make it happen. And you know what most of us do? We talk ourselves out of it. Who am I to do this? I'm not good enough. Betsy's better at this than I am. So-and-so is good. I don't have the education. I'm too old. I'm too young. We talk ourselves out of it. And I'd say that was one of the biggest messages I would share with people is assume you can do it. Because what I find with a lot of my intuitive reading clients, the biggest thing I hear is, I don't have the confidence. And here's the big secret. None of us have the confidence until we do the thing we're scared to do. And that's when the confidence happens. I think we all wish we had a confidence fairy that came and sprinkled fairy dust on us. But it's really to start doing the thing you're scared to do, and that's when the courage muscles get built. When we have these difficulties in our lives, just to assume that they're leading us to a better place rather than it's, some God punishing us, or we've done something wrong, or we haven't done our visualization right or something. Just trust that there's some other path that's emerging here. And so the practice that I do every day is I do a meditation for about 10 minutes, and then I start to visualize the thing that I want. And this always sounds weird, but I talk to myself as if it's already happened. Like, wow, I just love being a speaker. I love traveling internationally. I've gotten lots of, big audiences. I'm really helping change people's lives. I just say it as if it's already happened. And then the big key part is following your intuition. So the last part of that technique is just put your hands over your heart, because I think that's where that intuitive wisdom lies, and say, what's my right next step? And it can be a small thing. It can be going to a networking meeting. It can be sending somebody an email. It can be writing an article. It can be going for a walk. It can be showing up at camp, listening to more of these videos. It can be anything. But it's just if it feels exciting, energizing, you're curious about it, it energizes you. That's your intuition saying, go in that direction. I feel very passionate about bringing this knowledge to more people. And so I'm not exactly sure how that's going to happen, whether it's more speaking or more books, or the thing I'm feeling very guided to do very specifically that feels part of this whole thing is to do more guided meditations. Because I think meditation is so great. I have such a hard time focusing when I'm just sitting there going, or paying attention to my breath. But I find those guided meditations where we're really feeling that love of the universe around us, and that we're being guided, that we are safe, and really giving people those messages. I do that. I record them for myself, and I think I'm just going to start recording them for others, because everybody finds that they're really helpful. So that's part of my next.